Shedeur Sanders didn't start, and Kevin Stefanski paid the price. The Cleveland Browns head coach was fired after refusing a direct push from owner Jimmy Haslam to put the rookie under center, despite growing public pressure and a string of internal battles that exposed just how fractured the organization really is. Stefanski stuck with Joe Flacco, the veteran backup who'd stabilize the offense just enough to stay afloat. But Flacco wasn't flashy. He didn't sell jerseys.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
And more importantly, he didn't align with Haslam's very public, very personal campaign to turn Sanders into the face of the franchise. From the moment Sanders touched down in Cleveland, the hype train was off the rails. Haslam didn't just want him to play, he wanted a spectacle. The decision to keep Sanders on the sideline wasn't slight. It was strategy. He'd had a solid preseason. Sure, his college stats turned heads, absolutely. But Stefanski wasn't willing to throw him into fire just to satisfy a billionaire's ego. And that sealed his fate. This wasn't a football conflict. It was a control war. Haslam has built a reputation for meddling, and this wasn't his first time stepping on a coach's toes. But this time he was loud about it. Leaks started. Rumors spread. The locker room split. Media headlines went scorched earth. Chants for Sanders erupted in the stadium, while Flacco jogged onto the field. Boos followed. Every incomplete pass became ammunition in a narrative that ownership was determined to win, no matter who had to go. It's the Browns. Of course it's messy. Quarterback drama is their brand at this point. The front office treats passers like disposable razors. Use, toss, repeat. It's been over 2 decades of broken systems, bad scouting, and quarterbacks who flame out before they even get their names stitched into merch. Sanders was supposed to be different. But now, he's being shoved into the spotlight with the added pressure of being the reason a coach was fired. Cleveland didn't just gamble on a rookie. They bet their entire credibility on a media-driven decision. Haslam wanted headlines, and now he's got them, just not the ones that build winning franchises. Stefanski tried to protect a young quarterback from a toxic rollout. He got fired. Now Sanders is expected to save a team that can't stop setting fire to its own future. This isn't a fresh start. It's a forced transition with a narrative that's already out of control. The same organization that couldn't manage Baker Mayfield or Deshaun Watson is now pinning everything on a rookie they weren't even prepared to protect, and they let go of their head coach to do it. Kevin Stefanski was not fired for losing games. He wasn't fired for a scandal or locker room turmoil or collapsing in the standings. He was fired for doing what head coaches are hired to do, making football decisions based on what's best for the team. His mistake? He said no to Jimmy Haslam. And in Cleveland, that's all it takes. Stefanski refused to start rookie quarterback Shedeur Sanders, despite Sanders' standout college career. Despite a preseason performance that had fans and analysts buzzing, despite mounting pressure from the media and fans chanting his name, Stefanski made a choice, a football choice, and stuck with veteran Joe Flacco. A decision rooted in experience, timing, and caution, but that wasn't good enough. Haslam wanted his rookie star on the field. He didn't want to wait for development. He didn't want a careful progression. He wanted now a bold, headline-making rollout of the new face of the franchise, a storyline. And when Stefanski didn't comply, he was gone. Let's break that down for what it really is. Ownership stepping over the line. A billionaire demanding that his vision be executed on the field, regardless of coaching plans, game flow, or locker room dynamics. It was less about football and more about control. And when control becomes more important than cohesion, the fallout is inevitable. This isn't a one-off. This is the Browns' playbook for dysfunction. 2 decades of quarterback turnover. A coaching graveyard. Rebuild after rebuild. Each one collapsing under the weight of front office interference and premature expectations. Stefanski was supposed to be different. And for a while, he brought a little structure. A playoff win. Stability, at least by Cleveland standards. But when the Shedeur Sanders hype began to build, Stefanski stood his ground. He didn't want to burn a young quarterback by rushing him into a broken situation. And for that, He paid the price. Let's talk about Shedeur Sanders. He's not the villain here. He's a rising star caught in the middle of a PR tug-of-war. A quarterback with legitimate upside, college numbers, preseason tape, and raw skill to back it up. Sanders is not the problem. But the way he's being used? That's where the trouble begins. This wasn't about grooming him for success. It was about exploiting his momentum. He was sidelined in favor of a proven veteran while the team tried to figure things out, and that should have been the plan. Let him learn, adjust, and be brought in at the right time. But Haslam didn't want timing. He wanted attention. And now Sanders is being thrown into the fire. Not because the team is ready or because he's ready, but because someone upstairs wants a narrative shift. That's not how you handle a potential franchise quarterback. What happens if he struggles? If he gets rattled in his first few starts? If the team doesn't support him, the offensive line breaks down, or the playbook isn't tailored to his strengths, then what? Does the fan base turn? Does the media say he's another bust? And what about the locker room? Are those players on board, or are they still reeling from the chaos? Because let's not ignore this. Stefanski had supporters in that building, players who trusted his leadership, people who believed in his long-term plan. When he was pushed out over a personnel dispute, that trust fractured. And fractured trust is poison in any franchise. Now the Browns are left with the same problems, only louder. They have no coach. They have no direction. They have a rookie quarterback now burdened with expectations far beyond his control. And the person pulling the strings is still in the owner's box. This is the cycle Cleveland can't escape. Ownership overreaches. Coaches are undermined. Quarterbacks are thrown in before they're ready. The team underperforms. Fans rage. The media mocks. And then reset. Again. Over and over. How many quarterbacks have the Browns ruined this way? How many head coaches have been chewed up and spit out because they dare to go against the status quo? The jersey with 24 names taped on the back isn't just a meme. It's a reality. It's a reminder of what happens when a team values splash over substance. Shedeur Sanders might be different. He might have the talent, the confidence, and the toughness to weather the storm. He might even thrive in spite of the dysfunction. But that's not how a winning franchise operates. You don't hope your rookie survives the chaos. You create an environment where he doesn't have to. And right now, Cleveland is doing the exact opposite. This should have been a turning point. The Browns finally had a young quarterback with potential and a coaching staff willing to manage that development carefully. But instead of letting the future unfold naturally, they tried to force it and fired anyone who resisted. And the consequences? They've lost their coach. They've divided their locker room. They've alienated fans who actually want to see growth instead of gimmicks. And worst of all, they put their most valuable asset in a position that could destroy his career before it even starts. Let's be honest. Even if Sanders plays well, this was handled in the worst possible way. Because the issue wasn't about who should start. It was about how that decision was made. Was it rooted in game prep, locker room feedback, practice reps? Or was it dictated from an office upstairs, based on optics and public opinion? We already know the answer. Cleveland's leadership has shown, once again, that their priorities aren't aligned with football logic. They want headlines, not hard-fought wins. They want attention, not development. And that's why this franchise keeps spiraling, no matter how much talent walks through the door. Until they fix the culture, nothing else matters. Coaches will keep getting fired for doing their jobs. Quarterbacks will keep getting scapegoated. Fans will keep watching the same train wreck, just with new faces. And now, Shedeur Sanders is the latest test. Not just of skill, but of whether Cleveland can finally break its own cycle. Because if they can't protect him, develop him, and support him the way a franchise quarterback deserves to be supported, then this isn't the start of a new era. It's just the latest chapter in the same tragic story. And Browns fans are running out of pages. So what do you think? Was Kevin Stefanski right to stand firm and trust his football instincts? Was Jimmy Haslam out of line for meddling in game day decisions? And will Shedeur Sanders rise above the chaos, or get swallowed by it? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear every take, every hot seat prediction, every bold call. And don't forget to hit subscribe, because whether to rebuild, a meltdown, or another headline-making twist, We'll be right here following every wild turn in Cleveland's endless football drama. Because with the Browns, the show never ends. It just resets, louder. Here's the problem with Cleveland. It's not just about bad decisions. It's about who keeps making them, and how nobody in the building seems willing or able to stop the cycle. Kevin Stefanski was hired to be a stabilizer, a grown-up in a franchise that, let's be honest, has felt like a reality show since the turn of the century. And for a while, he was that. He brought professionalism. He brought patience. He brought a process. Under his leadership, the Browns weren't just noise. They were actually winning. He gave this team a blueprint, and for once, Cleveland looked like it had a real future. But in Cleveland, stability never lasts. Not because the fans aren't patient. Not because the players aren't trying. But because ownership can't help itself. The second things get uncomfortable, the front office panics. The second the fans get loud, the owner caves. And when a coach doesn't fall in line with the latest short-sighted impulse, he's gone. That's what happened here. Stefanski didn't refuse to play Shedeur Sanders because he doubted his talent. He refused to play him yet because he understood the risk of rushing a rookie into the spotlight too soon. He saw the dysfunction creeping in, and he knew exactly how badly this could backfire. So he went with a veteran, with Joe Flacco, with the guy who wouldn't be thrown off by the noise, the pressure, or the lack of support. Was it conservative? Yes. Was it unpopular? Absolutely. Was it smart? It doesn't matter. Because in Cleveland, the smartest guy in the room isn't the one with the playbook. It's the one with the checkbook. And Jimmy Haslam decided he was done waiting. So Stefanski is out. Shedeur is in. And now the clock is ticking. Let's be blunt. The Browns just bet their future on a rookie quarterback. Not in the usual way, by drafting him and developing him, but by turning him into the focal point of a franchise-wide identity crisis. And now, everything hinges on whether Shedeur Sanders can survive it. The fans? They're split. Some are ecstatic, thrilled to see the new face of the team finally take the field. Others are furious that Stefanski was canned for refusing to play into a PR stunt. And then there's a large group in the middle, the ones who've been here before, who've seen this story, who know how it usually ends. They watch quarterback after quarterback come in with hope and leave with regrets. They've heard every promise, every press conference, we're building something special. And now they're watching Shedeur Sanders step into a role that has devoured more talent than most fan bases even realize. Let's not pretend the pressure isn't astronomical. Shedeur isn't walking into a well-oiled machine. He's stepping into a franchise mid-free fall without a head coach, with an owner making football calls, and a fan base that's desperate for anyone to finally get it right. And that desperation is not always a motivator. Sometimes it's a weight. Every snap Shedeur takes now isn't just a play. It's a referendum. Was Haslam right? Was Stefanski wrong? Can this team be fixed? Or is it cursed beyond repair? And that's a lot to put on a rookie, especially one who now carries the baggage of a public feud he didn't even start. Because let's not forget, this isn't just about performance. It's about perception. Shedeur is not just expected to lead the offense. He's expected to justify an entire organizational upheaval. And if he doesn't, if he flounders, then it won't just be another quarterback failure. It'll be his fault. And that's the trap. That's the Cleveland curse. Not ghosts or bad luck, but a culture that puts the blame on players while protecting the dysfunction that made them fail. Look at the history. Brady Quinn, Colt McCoy, Brandon Whedon, Deshaun Kaiser, Johnny Manziel, Baker Mayfield. All of them came in with potential. All of them were supposed to be the one. And all of them were swallowed by a franchise that didn't know how to build around them, protect them, or give them time. Now Shedeur Sanders is up next. And we're supposed to believe this time will be different? It could be. He's got the talent. He's got the leadership. He's got the college pedigree and the confidence. But does he have the support system? Does he have the coaching, the organizational discipline, the infrastructure that every great quarterback needs to succeed? Because let's be honest, if Haslam doesn't back off, if the front office doesn't course correct, and if this locker room doesn't stabilize soon, Even Shedeur's brightest moments might not be enough. And let's talk about the locker room. This kind of mid-season firing, especially one so obviously driven by ownership, doesn't just go unnoticed. Players see what's happening. They know when a coach is being scapegoated. And even if they like Shedeur, even if they won't win, this kind of move fractures trust. It makes players question who's really in charge. And it adds one more layer of chaos to a team already teetering. Stefanski was respected. Maybe not loved by everyone, but respected. And when you fire someone like that, not because of performance, but because he wouldn't play politics, it sends a message. Loyalty doesn't matter. Process doesn't matter. Only results. And only when the owner says so. That kind of culture doesn't win championships. It barely wins games. So now we wait. We wait to see what Shedeur looks like under center. We wait to see who they bring in to coach him. We wait to see whether this was the beginning of a turnaround or just another misstep in a long, long line of Cleveland failures. And honestly, it's hard to be optimistic because this wasn't the moment the Browns unleashed a new era. It was a moment they showed, once again, that they still don't know how to get out of their own way. They still think swapping quarterbacks and firing coaches will solve a culture problem. They still think short-term headlines matter more than long-term health. And they still think that talent alone can fix what leadership keeps breaking. It's exhausting. For fans. For players. For everyone who wants to see this team actually get it together for once. Because Shedeur Sanders could be the real deal. He really could. But he deserves more than hype and pressure and a team in chaos. He deserves a franchise that treats his development like a priority, not a promotion. He deserves structure. He deserves protection. He deserves a shot that isn't wrapped in controversy before it even begins. But that's not what he's getting. He's getting Cleveland. Raw, unfiltered Cleveland. The same Cleveland that fires the coach instead of fixing the culture. The same Cleveland that listens to noise instead of reason. The same Cleveland that's so addicted to dysfunction. It thinks this is normal. And unless something changes soon, we already know how this ends. Here's the part that really stings. This was supposed to be the moment, the turning point, the long-awaited, finally get-it-right moment for Cleveland Browns. You had a promising rookie quarterback, a respected head coach, a fan base more than ready to move past years of false starts and wasted potential. For once, it felt like the elements were almost aligned. Not perfect, but finally trending in the right direction. But leave it to Cleveland to take a moment of potential and turn it into chaos. Again, the decision to fire Kevin Stefanski didn't just disrupt momentum. It sent a message. A loud, jarring, unmistakable message. Winning isn't enough if the owner doesn't get his way. And now, everything's on the line. Because make no mistake, Jimmy Haslam has made himself the face of this franchise. Not Shedeur Sanders. Not the new coaching staff. Not the players grinding on the field. It's Haslam. Every major football decision now has his fingerprints on it. And when ownership becomes the center of the story in professional sports, it rarely ends well. Think about where the Browns go from here. They're likely to hand the offense over to Sanders immediately. Whether he's ready or not, it's happening. The fans have been demanding it. The media is watching like hawks. And Haslam has already pushed all his chips into the middle of the table. But here's the danger. When you turn a rookie into a savior, you skip the parts where he's allowed to make mistakes. You skip the learning curve. You skip the slow development that leads to sustainable success. And in Cleveland, that's never worked. What happens if Sanders throws 2 picks in his debut? What happens if the offense sputters? If the team loses 3 straight? Does the blame fall on the rookie? On the interim coach? Or do we all have to circle back and admit that maybe, just maybe, Stefanski was right? Because that's what this comes down to, patience versus pressure. Stefanski chose patience. He wanted to build something real. But Haslam chose pressure. He wanted fireworks. And the problem with fireworks? They burn out quick. What Cleveland needs right now isn't flash. It's foundation. Something that doesn't collapse every time the stadium boos a third down call. Something that lasts beyond one hot rookie or one PR stunt. You can't build a franchise on vibes. You need structure. You need consistency. You need leadership that lets coaches coach, players play, and development happen on the right timeline, not on an owner's whim. And yet, here we are. Kevin Stefanski was fired because he tried to protect the Browns from themselves. He knew the history. He saw the instability. And instead of feeding into it, he tried to slow it down, to do it right, to put the rookie in when it made sense. But in Cleveland, doing the right thing is the wrong move if it doesn't get clicks. Now the franchise sits at a crossroads, with a fan base divided, a quarterback under a microscope, and a new coaching hire that will inevitably walk into a job already compromised by executive overreach. Who wants to coach a team where their job security depends on whether they agree with ownership's quarterback timeline? What qualified candidate wants to be the next guy sacrificed at the altar of Haslam's ego? Because let's be honest, if Haslam forced Stefanski out over this, he'll do it again, and that reputation travels. Around the league, agents talk, coordinators talk, players talk. People see what's happening in Cleveland and make their decisions accordingly. This kind of chaos doesn't just live on the front page of sports blogs. It trickles down into the very fabric of team operations. And Shedeur Sanders? He's now tasked with doing more than just playing quarterback. He's cleaning up a mess he didn't create. His development is now political. His performance will be seen as either a justification for Haslam's meddling or a cautionary tale about ruining young talent before it has a chance to settle. That's not fair to him. That's not football. That's dysfunction disguised as urgency. And if it sounds like we've been here before, it's because we have, over and over and over. The Browns don't just have a quarterback problem. They have a culture problem. And until someone at the top is willing to admit that it won't matter who wears a headset or who throws the passes. So what happens next? Does Shedeur defy the odds and become the franchise savior Cleveland's been praying for since 1999? Or does he become another talented quarterback buried by pressure and mismanagement? It's hard to root against him. He deserves better than this. The fans deserve better than this. But if history is any indication, the odds are not on their side. So now we turn to you. Was Kevin Stefanski right to take the long view, or did he blow an opportunity by not giving Shedeur the ball when the world wanted it? Did Haslam finally make the bold move Cleveland needed, or just reset the clock on another meltdown? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Was this the beginning of a breakthrough, or just more of the same? And don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because whatever happens next in Cleveland, one thing's for sure. It's going to be loud, dramatic, and probably messy. Just the way the Browns seem to like it.